More people. One has respect. I hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody in our better state than you were a few weeks ago. Well, I'm gonna tell you, said when the year starts, everybody's so happy for the new year. Everybody happy for the new year start, but nobody not interested in carrying out the duties, keeping the same energy right through the year. So I'm gonna check my tomato them today. You're looking good. I have issue with a couple, and I know what happened to them. Them I do good the whole time, and then all of a sudden, but that's only two out of all of the tomato them I plant. So now it I get warm, it's coming like said them just them know say pretty soon them have to dip on the balcony. You're gonna have to deal with the coming struggles because even to me every all vegetables got through struggle. Them are pests we eat them. Sometimes not enough water, sometimes not enough sunshine. So even plant, everything that exists go through some form of uh, growth because the struggle is part of growing. Or sometimes you're in a situation where seem like say you're not grow, just a struggle. That it feel like sometimes. Me hear the 100-year-old man yesterday say him still get up and do him little things to make money. If someone now 100 years old and this someone still have to do with money, can you have enough money? Can I get enough money? Just wondering if the things I'm aware chase so much, if they're really worth that much. People I'm telling you say, I think our main goal is supposed to be betterment of ourselves and the people around us. This is why I love how the past was community, neighborhood, business, owning business. There's so much to us, even though we still have struggle. Even though we have color barrier, we have Jim Crow law, we have segregation, we have blacks on, like whites only. All of them things that we got through. And come to the point now, we live in our situation where man can pull out him weapon and just blast away. Have no qualm about hurting each other. tell you, there's no calming us from hurting each other. We do it willingly, readily, no hesitation. And no matter the consequences, because when the consequence come down, it's never anything good will come out of them situation there. There's nothing good will come out of them situation there. But we constantly I could never look and say, oh, it's not my duty to be a better person. It's always my duty to be a better person. You see, because I know there's always gonna be more. I know, say, like it doesn't matter how bad things is within the worst situation, birth have to happen, life have to go on. You still have to exist for your purpose. This amazing thing called life. Life flows up, down, in, out, round and around. How come you're not so precious to everybody? Some people think that freedom life more important than others. I just look upon it, so just craziness. I just look at it as craziness. If a person look upon freedom life and say freedom life better than your life for whatever reason, them can come up with. No people, that wasn't no power, that was just a book. The book I say yo. I'm not gonna start with that book because I say we are before I start my life them. So I'm gonna do a couple chapter out of this book. But then I come on to Black History Month and yes, he's part of Black History too, but film book it take so you gonna take like a late night reading for getting another book, yeah. Anyways, people, it's late night chat, and again, we did a lot of ladies. I'm saying I'm gonna do a marathon with ladies. Yes, Selassie, I did yesterday. I do um a view introduction to Leonard Howell, right? So I'm gonna tell you, so everybody is just an introduction. Then we do part two and we find out more information. Trust me, people, it's not no boring over here, so no. It's just the feelings now. The feelings go up and down. You know what I say? How you feel goes up and down. Different people, different mood, right? So all of the people that want me choose or choose me to be highlighted, I say them people has accomplished a lot in them existence. So them have a better understanding of accomplishment, right? So we are going to introduce you to a doctor. Not, I mean, not all of them are doctor, but this one is, right? I'm gonna say all of them people, their knowledge is stupendous and it's worth sharing. And it's not just sharing; it's educating each other. That's why I'm say the best thing you do is grab a pencil and a book. So anytime we have them session, yeah, we have something to take away from from listening to them people tell them story. Again, I tell you say the past, present, and future. It doesn't change. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's not a separate thing. It's a one thing. It's a us thing, right? So this is Dr. Kwasi Konadu. Okay, and again, the people them don't need no introduction. Them just need to tell them story, and we listen, and we can learn from the situation. Manners and respect, King. So this is Doctor Kwasi Komadu. So and me tell us the story them some this is from I Never Knew TV. I'm saying I reach out to him already, right? All of them people are when me highlight them interview and stuff like that. Um but I like to reach out to them because me tell us say it's best for us to have the positive vibes, right? So as we proceed, people.
And how authors are being exploited by book publishing companies.
Well, as a publisher and an author, I have a unique perspective in this industry. As an author, I can tell you that many authors, these scholars, give away too much of their rights to their intellectual property. On average, it may take you as a scholar 5, sometimes 10 years to publish a book, a monograph, single author monograph. And so all that energy and intellectual effort that goes into publishing a book, authors will often give away that intellectual property and all that energy and effort for no more than 7, 8%, maybe 10% of royalty. That's net royalty after taxes and everything else. And so what they give away also, which is more crucial to me, is a copyright. You see, the difference between copyright, that is the ownership of the work that's being produced, and the capacity or ability for the publisher to publish that work. They're separate issues, but often what publishers will do, they'll fuse them as one. They'll essentially say that you're granting me, the publisher, rights in perpetuity, that is forever, usually 70 years after the author passes away, and it can be renewed by the publisher. So in perpetuity, you're granting away the ownership of your intellectual property in your work and the exclusive right for that publisher to be the sole publisher to distribute your work across the world. So what I do is I separate the two. That is, I separate ownership of the work, make sure that the copyright is in my name, and then allow the publisher exclusive right to publish that work for the time that I grant them to do so. At any point, I can pull the plug, as it were, because I own the digital property. So there's an important distinction that often authors don't really think about or unaware that the two, that is ownership in the work and the ability for the publisher to disseminate the work, are not the same. They're two separate matters. And that's where I think authors get taken advantage of or exploited, because often they give away their ownership and their rights, which I think is very similar to the music industry when you give away your publishing, which is your catalog, right? That is the intellectual ownership of your work, because ultimately that's what's going to essentially feed you over the long haul when ownership in that work will pay dividends for you over the long haul. So to me, the key issue that authors often get exploited by is a misunderstanding or unappreciation for the distinction between ownership intellectual property that they have created and the ability for the publisher to distribute that work. They're two separate matters that are often fused, and that's where the problem lies.
Are book publishing companies getting into appearances also, or are they only getting a percentage of book sales? Are they getting percentages of any other use of the book by the author?
Well, that is in fact a key question. And so what publishers do, academic publishers, trade publishers, they in fact will essentially spread out the exploitation of the author's work. This is how it happens. And so there's percentages that they get obviously from publishing the work, that is sales from the work, but the sales in several ways. There's the physical copy, that is the hard copy and the paperback. But there's also the ebook, that is whatever is the EPUB file or it is another kind of file that goes on different platforms, whether it's on Google Play or the Apple Store, or it is on a myriad of electronic, publishing sites. And then what the publishers also do is they will serialize the work in terms of these library catalogs and library subscriptions. So they'll put the work inside the subscriptions, either which they own or through an aggregate, that is an independent company that works on their behalf. And they'll also exploit the work in terms of copyright that faculty may use. They may say, look, if you want to use this particular published work that we, the publisher, own, you have to pay a certain amount. And usually what libraries or the university will do, they'll pay a subscription fee, or they'll have essentially, individual scholars or professors or individuals who want to use that work pay a fee for using a portion of the work through a major aggregate like Copyright Clearinghouse, right, which is one of the largest in the country. And so publishers have a myriad of ways, which essentially they'll metastasize their ability, they'll spread out their ability to exploit your work in a number of ways. Book clubs, right? Book clubs, conferences, leasing, that is essentially limiting, let's say, a school district or a group of teachers, or one teacher wants to use the work for learning materials, they'll actually have to pay a fee for that reuse. So there's so many ways, at least 15 ways that a publisher will exploit your work, and most authors are unaware of the ways in which this works.
Seems as if the world misunderstands what Voodoo is. Please explain what Voodoo is and why it is so misunderstood across the world.
Sure. So voodoo or voodoo is often represented in literature, in books, movies, and let's extent, in sort of the conversation that happens, if any, online and social media. Voodoo is one of the most misunderstood concepts because often it's tagged to voodoo, whether it's spelled with the double O, V-double-O, D-double-O, or it's spelled in some other kind of, ways in which it makes it appear that it's something that is demonic or grotesque, like voodoo, like woo, right? It sort of has that sort of Halloweenish, kind of feeling to it. So voodoo is often referred to as the spiritual forces or deities within the system of African spiritual practice that has its origins within the country of what is now Benin and Togo, among the Yoruba Fombe or Fon people. Now, what I understand is that voodoo is actually not the divinities or the spiritual forces themselves.
Hold on, before we continue, I want to clarify the pronunciation. So voodoo and voodoo are two different things?
Yes.
If you want to,
Okay, I didn't know that, people. You see, me never know said there's two different practice of spirituality, because again, it's voodoo is a spiritual thing, right? I look at it as a spiritual thing. I could look, and it could be a religion too, right? Just because, like a person practice, means that you have to hate it. And them say voodoo, there's good form of voodoo and them have bad form of voodoo. Right? As we proceed, people.
Voodoo and voodoo are two different things?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So Wudun is actually the system of practices and rituals that are essentially the matrix or the body of knowledge and practice and rituals, right? Whereas the divinities or spiritual forces in Haitian Vodun are referred to as Loa or Loas, whereas in Benin they're referred to as Hun or Hun. And so often what you find in literature, whether it's Wikipedia or other kinds of sources, they represent these spiritual forces as Vudun. But Vudun is not the spiritual force. It's simply it's sort of an umbrella term, right? For the sort of system of knowledge and practices and rituals that embody, right? Um, the essentially the again the entire edifice that is the structure for the system, whereas the individual spiritual forces themselves are referred to as hunu, and then there are myriad of them, and here's why. These spiritual forces or energies, they're no different than gravity or or atoms or other things that you can't see with your eye but we know exist because we have a sense that they do. And so wherever you find, several bodies of water or mountains or hills or certain kinds of forests, secondary forests, primary forests, savannas, you name it, wherever you find these patches in nature, you'll find these forces that are embedded in those parcels, right? And so you have a myriad of names, much like in the Yoruba system, which people refer to as Ifa, but Ifa is one of the spiritual forces used for divination, right? And so Ifa is not the system. The system, from what I understand, is referred to as Isheshe. And even that may be incomplete because what I've discussed with others is that these African spiritual systems, as we call them, us meaning people outside of Africa and outside of the language, particularly particular language is spoken, we have a way in which we have essentially, even when we try to leave Christianity or Islam or any other sort of Eurasian.
I was saying we still fuse it.
Yes, yes. So even when we depart from or have nothing to do with Christianity, Islam, we bring the cognitive world of Christianity with us. So by that I mean this: we bring the system, we bring the for example, your houses, meaning we bring the temple, we bring the same vocabulary and logic and structures from Christianity and Islam into these systems. So when we think about the Yoruba system, the Yoruba doesn't have a system. They kind of don't have a system. They kind of don't have a spiritual system. What these people have, are essentially, cultural codes and so coded wisdom inherited from their ancestors. And so when I ask the question from my elders among the Akan people, my folks in Ghana, West Africa, what do you call this? They gave me a problem. This is classic African folks, right? They said that, what we do, right? What I call spiritual culture, which is a sort of a bridge for something that we can't name. Spiritual culture, they said, is like a cloth. We created it, we wove it, we created it, we wore it, we washed it, and we passed it on to our children. And they do the same thing. Essentially, it's culture without a name. Because there's no need to name something that you live and breathe, right? And so by naming it, we do something that's what European white folks do, right? They have to have these schemas and categories because their thing about knowing is to control it. To know it is to control it, right? And so for many African folks that I'm aware of, particularly through the perspective or the pathway of their languages, they don't have a name for their culture. They don't have a name for themselves. So for example, the Yoruba are not Yoruba. That's what the Hausa people call it. So what we find is that people of African ancestry who have been dislodged outside of the African continent, for the last 5 years, they have developed a sense of looking at African spiritual culture, what I'm calling it, for lack of a better term, as traditions, as spiritual systems, and I think those words and what they imply are incomplete. So, for instance, African peoples don't name themselves, in the way that we think of. So, for example, the Yoruba are not Yoruba. The Hausa people, the people that we call Hausa, call those other people Yaruba. Yaruba became Yoruba, right? The Igbo, not Igbo. The Arab people refer to them as Uli Igbo, right? Meaning that kind of people, right? The Akan are not Akan, because the Akan were called Tong or Tunoa by the Mande people. Tong or Tunoa means locusts, right? And you know what locusts are? They're pests for farmers because they eat their crops.
So I tell you, say, we just go around and we just make up name for each other. And not respect the fact that, oh, you have your own name, me have my own name. Just call me by my name and me call you by your name. Confusion all the time.
You have intra-African terminologies that are being used to call those people. In other words, Africans have ways of distinguishing. I am this and you're that, or I'm not that because you're this. And the same is true for their spiritual system of tradition. They don't name it; they live it.
So, based on all the African terms we have been given to Africans by non-Africans.
Yes, you have these interpolated terms, meaning those that are given from without, like African, Negro, Black, and so on. But then you have intra-African naming. The Hausa call those people Yaruba, which became Yoruba. And then, of course, when folks reach Cuba and Brazil, they refer to it as Lukumi or Nago, right? In fact, in Jamaica, which I just came from Jamaica, actually 2 days ago, you have a place called Nago Hills, right? And so you have these terms being created by Africans. These are intra-African, right? Sort of naming, not the externalized, interpolated ones. The Akan are called Tong or Tunoa by the Mande people, right? Who live in the Savannah region in West Africa, which means locusts, right? Because obviously there's some behavior or character from these Akan peoples that made the Mande people refer to them as locusts, meaning as pesky, right? As troublesome to farmers, right? And so you have intra-African naming, which to me is a deeply understudied and fascinating arena for people to, if they really want to do African history, they have to do intra-African history, meaning what kinds of histories are being created among the encounter and exchange between African peoples on their own terms, literally and metaphorically, right? So that's something that is really undervalued, underappreciated.
Okay, and that me I said, like, when there's no other language, how we communicate with each other. If there's no English, right? If we don't communicate on that level, we definitely would have more respect for each other. Because I said there's so much misinterpretation in the English language because we use one word for all 6 or 7 different meaning and stuff like that. So there's a lot of confusion in the English language. So this is why I say the communication is it's horrible. We don't communicate with each other properly. That's one of the biggest things. As we proceed, people. So if again the language within ourselves, our language, I'm sure it's more communicatable than the hostile English we use towards each other. As we proceed.
Metaphorically, right? So that's something that is really undervalued, underappreciated. And so when you think about African spiritual culture, then what I've come to realize is that people don't have names for things that they live, right? So when we call it Yoruba system or the Akan system or Akan religion or Akan tradition, what are we really doing? We are framing what people do organically and without naming, culture without names, as I call it or phrase it in the English language, that people naturally don't do, right? And so we give it a name and make it a thing rather than a lived experience because we are not in that experience, right? Because if we were, and in the language and in the cosmology, we'd just be living it.
So, all right. So what I'm hearing I'm using a European term, the theological approach, right? Their experience is just to be instead of categorizing and try to structure. All right. Why does voodoo? I don't know what name to say now.
Well, voodoo.
Voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
Why does voodoo have such a bad name across the world?
Well, it's no different.
Okay, all right. That I say the reason why voodoo has such a bad name, it's because it's from us. That's the number one reason. And in time, then they talk about nanny are using voodoo, right? That's something where them couldn't understand. And when you don't understand something, the first thing you do is curse it. So that's why I feel say voodoo is hated so much across outside the culture of Haiti and certain places, because it's not just Jamaican alone that practice voodoo, right? Other culture practice voodoo too. It goes across. And I say it's a religion, right? People who practice it, it's a religion to them. But I'm saying though, when them use it for if say Obia people, or comes them never do it in a sense it benefit anybody. It only can be work as negative, even though there's a balance to it, right? As we proceed, people come tell us that I am here learning as much.
Why does voodoo have such a bad name across the world?
Well, it's no different than obia, right? Which we know of. It's a pan-Caribbean term, much like voodoo. And obia is known throughout the Caribbean region, right? And even it has migrated, for example, to England, where peoples from the Caribbean basin, including Jamaica, but not exclusively, have migrated to England and throughout that particular diaspora. And so terms like obia and voodoo, right, which gives it sort of again the flair of being something that is the demonic inverse of Christianity, meaning it is the polar opposite of something that's pure, civilized, and holy, because of a simple fact: African cultural norms and forms have to be the boogeyman, right? Has to be the demonic inverse in order for Christianity to appear pure, holy, and sacred.
See?
In other words, it has to be flipped. In other words, think of it this way. Think of it as, you want to make someone feel awful. Then the way you do that is to make them essentially everything that they're not. It's to frame them as everything that they're not. And so, in order to make you feel good about what you do. And so it's the same kind of framing, right? They flip it. And they have to do that in order to get African peoples out of their righteous mind and out of their cultural norms and form, because they know, meaning these European people who became white, they know that their so-called notion of fake or false superiority rests on getting African peoples out of their righteous mind, out of their sense of themselves. Because their sense of self and sanctity and even sanity rests on their power base in terms of who they are. And so by calling it voodoo, it was called voodoo or obia because these were the weaponry against European empire, European slavery, and European predation and cannibalism, right? This was their power source. Planters throughout the Americas, slavers throughout the Americas were uneasy and did not sleep well because of so-called obia and voodoo, right? And so by making African people believe that their own spiritual culture, their own spiritual weaponry.
Reverse psychology. People will tell us the reverse psychology. So when we make them uncomfortable, they come and tell us ease up on that, Rasta. As we proceed, people.
Technologies were in fact devilish or demonic, and this thing over here, Christianity, is pure, holy, and sacred, is to get people out of their power base. In other words, think of it this way in a crude but hopefully helpful example. It's like when children will dupe each other out of their money. They'll say, I'll give you, let's say a 10-year-old talking to a 3-year-old, and 10-year-old says, you have a nice piece of paper there, which is $100 bill. I'll give you all these shiny coins, which are dimes, right?
Yes, pretty much. That's how it works.
I give you all these shiny coins. Let's say it's about 100 dimes, right? For that piece of paper, right? And the child would say, "Oh, really? All those shiny coins for this, partly grayish, green, $100 bill, right?" And so the child will take the shiny, quantity of coins for this $100 because the child is what duped into believing that this shiny thing, right, that appears shiny, right, is more alluring than that valuable but older and therefore more ancient, $100 bill that's wrinkly as a great grayish green, and the exchange is made. So that kind of duping in poor metaphor, but I'm sure your viewers understand is what happens. Getting people out of their.
And that's what I'm saying though. Sometimes, trust me, we understand exactly what are going. It's just we don't talk about it. But trust me, we are aware of what's going on sometimes. Well aware of what's going on. Just the solution to solving that problem. Trust me. I'm going to tell you, say one of it is how we talk to each other.
Out of their righteous mind is how you get them out of their power base. How do you get them? Essentially, that's how you make someone a slave, right? Slavery again is a power dynamic, and this power of tug of war. You have to make the people who you want power over believe that their cultural norms and forms are their worst enemies. Keyword believe, right? And you do that by making something shiny and alluring and seductive, being the what? Frame of weapons for desire, right? But not simply desire, but desire through violence, right? You'll desire this through violence, right? And so it's through that or those processes that we end up, people of African ancestry, seeing Obeah as wickedness solely or only. Yes, it was wickedness for the overseer, wickedness and evil for the planter, right? Giving them a mirror image of who they are, right? Essentially, African spiritualities in their more unstained and unfettered form on their own terms, it's not about good and bad, but it's about destroying destruction, right? It is offensive and defensive. It doesn't seek to cause a fight, but if you bring the fight, it will bring the fight back to you. And that's what so-called Obeah and Voodoo did. But
one piece of advice,
and that's what I said. This is what I say. Me not look for hurt nobody, but if anybody is looking to hurt me, okay, they're gonna be hurt. That's pretty much how I always look at it. So me say, all right, me not interested in all that. People are interested in that, right? And when people interested in it, it's to hurt other people. Me never hear them talk about good Obeah before in my life. Them only talk about people and Obeah people, right? People, me tell us that these things are so informative. Because when you hear from people who just have one point of view, trust me, and I learn nothing. Sorry to say, but it's the truth.
And that's what so-called Obeah and Voodoo did. But of course, these are power bases that these European white folks were terrified about. In fact, all throughout the Caribbean in the 18th, 19th century, there were at least a dozen or more laws on Obeah and so-called voodoo punishable by death.
We're telling us that laws, people, laws are created by man and can be broken by men and women, but mostly man, because again, it's a man-dominated world. A man make them rule and broke them rule themselves. It's funny, in time I watch the Django movie with the man say, after me sign the paper and do everything else, that don't matter. A handshake has to seal the deal. And I'm saying then, okay, if all it takes is a handshake to do all of them things there, why do all of them things there? And if you have to do all of them things there, why a handshake? And nowadays, man, never handshake, man, fist bump. And that's from you see all of the fist bump where everybody I do. That's from when them did a protest in the Olympic. I'm gonna do a thing on that too, right? Because now them are fist pump all of them things and don't know the meaning or don't even stand for the meaning of that. You know what I say? Them turn it into one gimmick thing. And that match I show you, everything is turning into one gimmick thing, joke for them, entertainment for us. As we proceed, people.
And so-called voodoo punishable by death. Now, you don't enact those laws, something that is superstition.
That's what I want to touch on, man. So if it's such superstition and such BS, why were they so terrified of it?
Because it was real.
You could have waited at least to ask the question first. Because it was real. As that me tell you, anything we put your mind to, Anything we put your mind to. So I send out a message and that me did I say. I said to all the people that much I hurt me, I send karma them way. It's true. But I never want to stoop to them things that for real, I just know say them things that is real if you believe in them enough. But I know say it's within us to do those things if we want to do them things there. And I never really want to do them things. I don't. What I say, I don't want make people live how them want to live as long as they know want, as long as I am not included. Let them live for them way and I can live my way. But I don't want to force nobody to do nothing. I don't want nobody force me to do nothing. As we proceed, people.
Why were they so terrified of it?
Because it was real. Panthers were vomiting, choking on their own vomit. Panthers were not waking up from sleep the next morning. Panthers were having their skin just turn, to ash and just crumble, right? And so they were terrorized, right, by a terror for which they could not stop. Because it wasn't a terror that was simply brought on by bearing arms. It was a terror that was brought on by, axe and machete wielding, insurgentists, right? And you had those in terms of revolts and rebellions. There's a terror that was unseen but felt, that was known but you can't taste, touch, or see. That is the worst terror. An enemy you can't see is the most terrifying, restricting kind of force that one could have.
And you know what's wild? What I always is that Caribbean. I don't know about America, but America too. But most of the leaders that led rebellions were spiritual people.
Indeed.
And even if they were Christians, quote unquote, they seem to still have that African essence in them. So would you argue that they were all practicing African spirituality during their rebellion?
Of course, because again, they were in part or whole their righteous mind, which means they were operating from the nuclear weapon of their culture, or spiritual culture in this case. And so whether it is the Maroons in Jamaica or Suriname or French Guiana or Ghana, what is done for Ghana proper, or it's in Georgia or the Carolinas in terms of Denver Bissey. That's put up the quotation because we don't know if that's his name or not, but that's what we have on the historical record. Or Nat Turner in Virginia, or here in upstate New York, New York State, or all throughout, even in New Jersey, First Amber, which is a major port, for introducing captive Africans into what it became New Jersey. So all across the United States, particularly on the eastern seaboard and in the deep south, you have people who are still within their cultural frame of mind and reference who are operating from that nuclear power base of it, even in the framing of Christianity, meaning people can go to church and not be Christian. There's a conflation of that going to church or reading the Bible. In other words, I can read the Quran as a scholar. Doesn't mean I'm a Muslim.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, people. Some people go to church. This is no, understand, no. Some people go to church and they don't believe in that. Them, what the man said, they can just read the Quran just as a scholar. They don't have to believe in it. So people don't have to believe in it just because them go to church, and their action proves that. As we proceed, people.
Read the, whatever version of the Bible, because there's so many. I can read, Hebrew texts. I don't have to be a Jew to do that, right? So my point is that we often associate, the act of going to a place and reading a certain text or text with being a member of the theology represented by those texts, and they're false because they provided cover of the near.
So true. Oh, that is so true. And them say it. Yo, look. They say them people are so fake. All them people are so fake because they're not really they're not in it to be in it. They're just in it as a camouflage, as a speak, Mr. Doctor.
For people to exist, to be. But again, without getting the sort of gratuitous violence showered upon them, right? And so, that was smart, right? That was wise, right? Because moving around, in rebellious attire is to bring an undue attention to yourself. So yeah, go to the Masonry Church in the plantation, right? Yeah, cross yourself, right? But of course, what you don't know in heart and mind, and particularly deep down, buried in spirit, is what's bubbling, right? What's fomenting. And so to those rebellions and to those revolts, and even revolts in daily act, the poisonings, sabotaging machinery, that is the sugarcane machinery, or cutting down sugarcane early and not processing because it spoils. Burning the sugarcane crop and not, of course, transferring it to the refinery, it spoils. Or the rice paddy, right?
I'm telling you so. We're so destructive, but we're not on a plantation for destroy, so just destroy each other. The tricks and the trade, people. It's so funny because we tell you the things that we used to do for sabotage and cause mayhem and chaos. We were very rebellious. We are very rebellious people, right? So obviously, right, I understand that part. But now, instead of we're supposed to say, all right, there's no reason for us to be rebellious, or let's be constructive rebellious. People have just said, then we had a reason. No, and it can be the same reason. We're not supposed to treat each other the way we treat each other. That's one of the key things me say now. That's one of the key things, how we communicate with each other. But again, as we proceed, speak, doctor, speak.
It spoils, or the rice paddy, right? So sabotaging, undermining, I don't feel well today, I'm sick, whatever it is. There's a number of ways people revolted. And even when people worked diligently because they knew, again, the truth of the vows was always, over their heads, on their shoulders, on top of their heads, they in fact would still do so in heart, mind, and spirit, right? Because they knew that, this is flesh. You can do what you want to this. Yes, it pains, but people, African people, had a sense about home, and home was never in a shack or a shed. Home was always, a spiritual place. In fact, one of my favorite proverbs from West Africa says that spirit is our home and earth is our market where we come to do our transactions, right? And so they knew that this is, this temporal, material, mundane life is transactional, right? You and I meet, chop it up, we engage, we relate, but we know that that's not whole, right? And so to me, that's liberating theology, if you want one, right? Because it frees you up from being bounded by, I don't want to die, right? That to me is an imprisoning theology, where death becomes, it's a trap, it's a prison, right? Physical death, and therefore harm to the body. And this is why I push back against, books or works like Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, where he basically argues that I don't want to lose my body. That to me is a Christian view. That to me is an imprisoning view. That is not an African-based view.
Okay, because our body is just a vessel for energy, right? And when the vessel get all and mash up, we have to find a new vessel, or we have to go build a new vessel. And that's why I say I know we exist before. The energy when me know about myself, I know I've been here before. I tell people that and people don't believe. Well, it's not for them to believe something when me don't know already. And them can't come to agreement with. What me say? Most of the time people fight themselves, People don't fight other people, them fight themselves, right? Through other people. Like when them say a person, okay, so a person will beat up them girlfriend. Them a fight themselves through a next person. How them feel, right? Them can get over that feeling, so them might take it out on the next person, right? Because most of the time when situation come up like that, right? It's not about teaching a lesson. If every day you go home and go beat up your girlfriend, how that a teach her a lesson? Eh? Or say, okay, a woman a beat up her boyfriend, because that happens too. Every day you go home and you beat him up. That not gonna solve your issue. You have to wonder, okay, why? Me want to do that, right? As we proceed, people, me tell you some I love them people who are smarter than me, because me can't understand what them are saying. I'm not happy. This man say it has to be people, like-minded people who can understand the levels of what these people are talking about. So them not have to broke it down in a ABC and then,
That is not an African-based view. Because it says, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to be in pain. I don't want to be in prison. I don't want, meaning the jail. I don't want to, I want you to harm or hurt this or maim this, right? I told my daughters, you better get me a good lawyer. Or if I go out, you better bury me properly, because I'm going out for you. I'm not imprisoned by this, right? And that's an African spiritual culture view, which is liberating. The converse is imprisoning and entrapping. That's the power of dogma. But African spirituality, it frees you from that. Imagine if, folks in this United States and elsewhere out in the world, all, 600 million of us plus, just one day took on that view. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
All right. Can you tell us the origin story of
Attention!
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. For us to collectively think about anything, it has to be collective. One person can't change that, This is what I say when it comes to petitions and stuff like that. It takes, I think, it takes a certain amount of people for sign a petition, to bring it to, say, your representative, and then for it to go on and stuff like that, right? It have to take a collective, because first of all, them say, oh, one person can't do it, right? And we're not going to get enough people to do it. This is pretty much where we work out to be most of the time, They're betting against us getting up and doing it. This is why I say when it comes to the politics part of certain things, it's like, oh, me can't bother. Oh, me not. It's like we are so like stuck in another mentality that say one person can't change it, but one person is so important, and that one person is always you. You're the one who always make the change, or can make the change. But because you as a person don't make the change, the past is gonna be the future. Because I said the only way the future can change is unless we change it. This is why they stuck to the things where they keep on sticking to, And at them things are why I say I am so happy doing understanding these things. Because I know one person have the answer. The answer is together. When you sit down and analyze certain things and see it, work out the solution. The solution is not just for one person, it's for everybody. As we proceed, people, I'm telling you them program, yeah, them are bomb. But me tell you, these are not the things that get highlighted.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
All right. Can you tell us the origin story of the Dogon people, their knowledge about Sirius B, and why Europeans try to disclaim their understanding of Sirius B?
Great question. From what I know and remember about the Dogon people who live, on the Bandigara cliffs, where it's not Mali, West Africa, these are people who actually were not born there, because people are not born in the cliffs or plateaus, but they migrated there, unknown time. And I'll probably refer your viewers to a number of books that lay out Dogon cosmology, because our time is limited in this, and it'll be great just to have a conversation right after having this common reference. And so there's a book called Conversations with Ogatameli, who was an elder, Dogon elder.
A conversation with Dogon and Nelly. I tell you, say one time when I get on the pencil, right? Conversation with Dogon Nelly. Because first of all, when we pick up from him talking, he speaks fast, right? And you have to listen intently or rewind the tape and listen over it. Because again, this is modern time when one can listen to the same thing over and over. Okay, as we proceed. We just did one catch the the book. That's why I don't know if you have a pencil and a book, because then people are always talk about other people within the circle of who they are and what they're about. As we proceed, people.
Dogon elder, these two French anthropologists had interviewed, I think 1950s, maybe a little earlier, but 1950s or so. And then there's another book, a larger book. The name will come back to me in a moment. It's in my mind, but it's not too clear right now. About the Dogon people, that is really just it's called the Pale Fox. The Pale Fox.
And you see how quick you recall that? The Pale Fox. And that's what I'm trying to show you. It's like our brain is such a complex. It's just like the computer. Boom, you can pick up the information. It's there. May I tell you, say all of them computer, all of them AI same thing, yeah. And we then make it offer. But because we jealous of the AI them, we I'm not saying the AI them is not, quicker, faster on analyzing information, just because they are a machine and we're a human. And even them are consider themselves human. Conversation sometimes you hear them have. Capiche? As we proceed, people.
It's called the Pale Fox. The Pale Fox, right?
The Pale Fox. I got that one.
The cosmology is laid out there. And so the Dogon's cosmology has a lot of similarities with the cosmology from ancient Kemet or ancient Egypt, right? Where, there is this sort of cosmic force, unnamed, ungendered, unknown, that is like the sort of dark matter, right? And out of that.
That's the B unlimited paper. That's the B of us. Not telling us eventually I'm not going to get it still, But as we continue, slowly unravel who we are as we proceed,
urges, right? These forces, right? And that's really all the world is. Whether it's the universe, the cosmos, it's energy and matter, right? Energy makes matter, and matter is filled with energy. Basically, matter is a densification of energy. Everything is energy and force, right? Um, what's true in physics and chemistry is true for these African peoples way long ago in ancient times. And so out of this dark matter emerging these spiritual forces. And there's a spiritual force referred to as Ama that is crucial to these other forces that are extensions of Ama. And so you have the story of essentially the one of those forces going awry, right? Think of it like cancer. All cancer is, and I don't want to be too crude, but all cancer is certain cells going rogue, and then of course fighting the body, right? Fighting the body, fighting itself. And so there's a force or forces, and hence the notion of the pale fox, um, that essentially goes rogue, right? And essentially wants to be like this the creative force, right? That's sort of the architect. And this becomes the inspiration for Marimba Ani's classic book, Yurugu, right? The notion of Yurugu, the sort of rogue, right, that wants to.
Okay, the notion of Irugu. The notion of Irugu. People, I need them book here now. I need my library. I tell us all of them book here becoming like someone I forgot to write a book about all of these books. Because we tell us that this a book here, it have so much information already, people. That's why I'm saying anytime I'm on I need to get on a pen and on a pencil because on a book. Because it's all knowledge. All of the stuff them when me I go through, it's stuff that we need to understand as we proceed. Because you hear me talk about the negative energy, right? And just like cancer, it's like a cell that's going rogue, right? And pretty much the same thing them did say. One cell did go rogue against the creator cell, and so him get expelled, right? And now we live a hell. People, I'm not making this stuff up. Maybe the rhymes, but not. As we proceed, people.
The notion of Yoruba, the sort of rogue, right, that wants to essentially compete with and be like this creative force of the universe. You have it in ancient Kemet, right? And so that awesome and archaic, that awesome and archetypical battle between Osar and Set, right? That again, these two forces, one wants to take the place, of this grander, more pivotal creative force, and so you have this sort of cosmic battle that goes on. Now, there's much more.
Okay, and that's pretty much I say. There's always like that between a father and a son, between a mother and a daughter. It's always like it's a challenge thing. The same thing when we talk about karate movie or when the student them go away and then come back, right? It's some karate movie them is sure where the teacher the student come back and help the master beat somebody or something like that. But when the teacher when the student go away, go learn something and then come back, come beat up the teacher, me not like that because that's not how it's supposed to be. You see, once you teach the young ones must be able to come back and teach you too. And that me always say, when we go out and bring the knowledge, when I had the classrooms to teach, it was always like that. When bring the knowledge come, them can learn, them go out, then come back, right? Because when I learn to play chess, I taught them how to play chess. Then come, it wasn't easy for them to beat me, but eventually they did beat me in chess because it's not like I know everything about chess, and that's not the reason for teaching. The reason for teaching is for balance. each one teach one how to be better so they can balance themselves. People, I tell you something, I love the classroom them. Classroom them never full, but them never empty. You know what I say? As we proceed.
That's why I refer to your readers to these two books, The Pale Fox and Conversation with Ogatameli, because they'll lay out more details, which I can do with you in this time. The Dogon people, in that cosmology, therefore, they have a sensibility about the cosmos, right? Because what happens is when you live on these high mountains and plateaus, like the Bandegara cliffs, you have a certain perspective, literally and metaphorically. And so it is by the elders having spiritual eyesight, meaning they see not better or worse, but differently, right? Layered with empirical observation. In other words,
it's facts.
Being on that elevated plateau, you have let's say a telescope has it, because the telescopes are usually placed on elevated platforms, right? And so you have that by the cliffs, naturally, right? Organic.
So for them, eyesight must be amazing and can see for miles. Because they're so high up and the visual where them can see, because the same time you go all up on the building them and you can look down and see, it's a different view. One time when they down here, so it's so cloudy with like people. I'm telling them, say, yo, we're going on a different level, We're going on a different level because I'm telling you, say, them great people that before us, they knew our greatness. Nowadays, we have to guess and I wonder. This is why we don't give credit to each other, because we feel say we are the only greatness. But there's great before us. There's going to be greater after us. We just have to appreciate, love the amazing thing and be part of it. All we have to do is just be part of it, I'm saying I listen to, this is my very first time listening to him speak. And just when I talk about, be unlimited. The universe is ours. It's always been. As we proceed, people.
Right, organically. And then it is what? Long empirical observation on clear nights, right? Which are then ritualized, right? Meaning periodically ritualized, that one can be able to see. So you can see in two ways. Training your eyes, right? To be able to what? Sharply see what others can't see because of your elevated platform, and from what? Hundreds of years of doing this, right? And accumulated knowledge over time, right? So this is really empirical study, really. And then spiritually, right? Being able to what? In the dark nights, without any artificial light, that in the streets or otherwise, impairing, because light, artificial light impairs your vision, whereas clear nights, whether it's Jamaica or in Mali, right, you see in a way that you can't see elsewhere. No cloud, no fog, just really just black cosmos as the backdrop to what? These stars. And then you're able to what? See the formation. And what happens is empirically, you develop what? Patterns, the Dogon did. You see what star comes in formation, how often, and these observations are married to the agrarian cycle, right? When these grains and crops are available, and then you ritualize them by having festivals, right? So these festivals essentially are celebratory markings of these observations that are cosmological but that are real, that then become essentially ritualized, right? Ritualized forms. And so, in many ways, this is why African culture is not African culture, meaning it is a culture without a name. Because cosmology, ritual, agrarian life are just tightly bound together.
Yes, and it can't be up, up, up. Well, listen to some smart people again tonight. I'm going to tell you so everything when I'm on here talk about that, no, it's so true. I'm telling you, this is why we're so amazing. Our natural ability to understand certain things, the rhythm, it's so balanced. And that me tell you, so the balance that we used to have, we don't have it anymore. Can it come from respect and understanding? All of them things are so key. The doctor is spot on. I definitely This doctor is definitely spot on. As we proceed, people
are just tightly bound together. They're tightly woven or braided together in a way that you can't name it one thing. And that's tough for people to conceptualize who are outside of the culture, outside of the language of those people that we call culture. So culture and spirituality are really just these poor substitutes or placeholders, something that can't be named and shouldn't be named, right? Should be lived. And so, Dogon's spiritual culture as a temporary placeholder was such that you allow for these observations. So these observations, because they are uncomprehendable to a language and people outside of both. When we come to this debate that was sparked by Carl Sagan, who was an astronomer, well known. I think he taught at Cornell University, where I went to grad school. He argued that it's impossible for these Africans to have known about Sirius B or any other star of the constellation because they don't have the brain power or the technology. And certainly, if they did, they must have learned it from the Europeans who visited them.
It's impossible for them to do it. Okay, that don't even make no sense because if it's impossible for them to do it, there's no possibility for them to learn it from somebody else. So when them people contradict themselves, right? It's so the English language is so confining. Because somebody are going to hear that and say, that's true. That means their knowledge doesn't exist. Meanwhile, our knowledge existed way before. We are the universe. Wow. As we proceed, people.
Right? Classic Hamitic myth and hypothesis, right? These people are empty-headed. They have no way of knowing. Which, if you read Carl Sagan, what he's really saying is this. And I'm gonna translate him, for your audience. Is that we couldn't have known what you've known without our gadgets much later than you did. That's what he's really saying.
Yes. We have to invent a thought. We have to invent a thought so you can think. Huh? But we had brain before you even know what brain meant. That's how we're hitting them up so hard. This is why everything, we just live a lie. We're living the lie. I always say that, our nightmare, our nightmare is their dream. Our nightmare is their dream. Because how we're living is what they're dreaming. You understand? We're great, We great. Outside anywhere. Then people have to run up and down and make a laboratory if you invent this and invent that and put this together and put that together. Any little thing we fling together, make style, make fashion, make this trending, all of that, all of them things there. This is why Mr. Them can't stop watch we. Them pay more attention to us. Cat Williams said that already, Me have to go do all of Cat Williams. Definitely me have to go do all of Cat Williams. Trust me, man. There's so much I come people, but we're just a sure. So we shouldn't be shy and be caught up in all of the things that's so superficial when we're so unlimited. Unlimited beings talk about unlimited things. Limitation are the biggest enemy to be unlimited. Because they might bring their limitation to you all the time. Understand? As we proceed.
Much later than you did. That's what he's really saying, right? We don't know how you know what you know because we came to this observation in the 20th century, right? When you have known this centuries and millenniums ago. And because you knew it before us, we can't give you any credit because we took so long to figure out with our gadgets.
Exactly what I want to say. Exactly what them want to say, you know. And that them are thinking, you know.
And our technology and our know-how so late in the game, and we want to remain or maintain.
You ever been burned like
It's true. We just want to say somehow, and then say white supremacy is a fantasy, a fantasy supremacy, because it's not real, right? He calls it a fantasy supremacy. How did he say it? It's a a white fantasy supremacy, because it's not real. It has to be, you have to be tricked, you have to be you have to be cheated. All of them things that have to happen to you, right? Those things have to happen to you for you to be limited. As we proceed, people.
So late in the game, and we want to remain or maintain this hocus pocus that we're better than you, or superior to you, right? We have to what gets you out of your righteous mind by devaluing the meaning and even arguing to say that there's no way. But of course, the Dogon people on the cliffs, in their righteous mind, in their cultural base, on their spiritual culture and platform, them it's not a debate. To them, it's not even worth debating or arguing about. It's lived. And so their ritual and festival continues. In fact, on YouTube, you can find some of these dances because they're masked that occasion these festivals and dances, but they only occur at certain times. And it's part of a much more larger cosmology, which may include, because it's part of the larger Nande people, right? May include the Akan people in that cosmology. Another conversation that we can have some other time. But it's a very wide and broad cosmology that stretches toward wider West Africa, right? It includes so many people that fall under the Mande or Mandekine umbrella.
Previously, I've heard you've been very critical of some of our leaders, right? So I wanted to ask your views on Marcus Garvey. Many people have a different view of him. Some see him as a hero, some see him as a villain.
Okay, and that's what I said about Marcus Garvey. I like Marcus Garvey and everything else, but when his wife was, he could have done a little bit more for his wife, right? She could have been leader of the party, or them could have shared the power equally. So let's see him view upon Marcus Garvey. His honest view, people.
Marcus Garvey.
Well, to me, Garvey's not a villain. Garvey deserved his flowers then and now. But as I've argued before in different forums, that all of the notables within the African world, they should be seen three-dimensionally. And even myself or any other person, three-dimensionally. And so by doing so, you allow to see them in full context, right? In all their full regalia and flaws. Because to me, what I find more fascinating is not the regalia, it's the flaws. And here's why, and this is what I mean. I can learn more from the flaws than I can from the regalia. In other words, the regalia is shiny and bright. And so building with others, the UNIA and African Community League as a transnational and even a global organization was, tremendous.
Yes.
Yes, there were follies and mistakes. Yes, there were poor decision making around finances and who to trust.
Yes, people. There are some decision that was made. I'm gonna tell you, say, we are humans and we're not perfect. We're gonna hear that. We're humans and we're not perfect.
Yes, Garvey, in some cases acted maniacal and within reason, given who he had to trust. And what was at stake? The African world. In a time of heightened and intense European colonization of Africa, right? And so seeing in his full three-dimensionality, to me, allows for more appreciation, not less. And we can remove villainy from the table, right? That's for the other people who again want to demean and demolish, the work of God, right? But his flaws are important. Just like Malcolm, getting 4 hours of sleep is and being unhealthy. Yeah, you've seen pictures of Garvey, right? And so doing the work of one's people is not antithetical to doing the work of family and of self-care. And that's what I mean by I find the flaws more fascinating because the flaws to me are windows, are opportunities to say what we should be working on rather than what we should be glorifying. The glorifying leads to stagnation and comfort. Those are, to borrow, a line from Nas, the cousins of death. Right? When you're comfortable and stagnated, that you're close to dying.
I wanted to say real quick, I learned a lot from Garvey. I see a connection between Garvey and Malcolm X Garvey and Thomas and Kara in regards to their shortcomings, right? That we can learn from. I think both were too committed to the cause more than their family. I think you got to find a balance. That's for Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X. But with Marcus Garvey, Thomas and Kara, I think they had the ambition. They overextended themselves. They didn't have the resources and the team to execute the ideas that they had.
I hear you. I'll push back only a bit on the resources because I mentioned this before, in our previous chats, that resources is really an excuse and sometimes a overblown necessity. Yes, resources are necessary, but the most important resources are the people and their commitment. And so if I have a group of committed people, then you can be 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people, and they're committed. I don't worry about resources.
Okay, and that's like-minded people. Like-minded people is gonna support the cause. I gotta keep the cause going. You know what I say? People that we believe in our way you do or know say what you do, it's worth it, right? Those are like-minded people. I don't need a million people who's not like-minded over a very few, and them say it. Seeing people, as we proceed, I always say, yo, this as we proceed, people.
They're committed. I don't worry about resource because there's that S word, sharing, right? 5 of us, 10 of us, can stack up in a minivan, right? We don't need a chartered bus, right? I remember when I was part of this African fraternity as an undergrad, and a friendly brothers come and visit. We were like 10 deep in my dorm room. You know what men do, head to feet. 3 of us on the bed, 3 of us on the floor. We had a rug. 2 of us on the couch. We make it work. And so that's about 2 things: people and commitment.
Shooting. People and commitment. This brother is solid. As we proceed, people, thank you for the thumbs up. Buy us, support the small business.
We were people, brothers, and we were committed to the organization and each other, right?
But I should have, maybe the wrong word is not, I used the wrong word, not resources.
Mm-hmm.
I guess people skilled at what they're supposed to do. Because Thomas and Kara did utilize people, but they weren't skilled, or he didn't have enough time to train them to actually execute the mission.
And that's great. And by the way, this wasn't, necessarily personal to you. I'm saying for folks in general, they made the argument, I don't have the money. We don't have the resources, right? We don't have enough. We need funding, really. And so, look no further, your ancestors.
I don't need funding. I just need funds. I need your funds, people. For your backlash sauce. That's my trade-off. A backlash sauce for your funds. Support the thing. You see it.
401k they had. What, trust fund did they have? What foundation was giving them grants? You see what I'm saying? That to me is an excuse. So again, it wasn't necessarily personal, and I want to suggest that, right? But just for our viewers, that that's often a excuse, a blatant excuse for not doing, right? Let's look further than the ancestors. So people and their commitment, and the truth for Sankara. I'm not sure it was about time as it was about, the timing. Meaning, say for Lumumba.
Dialpad AI works.
Okay, and Patrice Lumumba. I have to do a thing on him too, because I saw he keeps on coming up in all of these conversations all the time, but I don't have any details of the good sir. So eventually, I'm gonna get information on like I'm gonna do a highlight of Patrice Lumumba. I would say all of these people, they're just people. These are amazing people. Where them track record is like is set. Them history is set. Them done set them example already for we follow. I just our turn now. Right? As we proceed, people.
Say for Lumumba, the timing. So someone like Sankara, I don't think it's a matter of time, but timing, right? Much like Garvey, in terms of when they come on the scene, what are the conditions that are there, right? Some people say that Garvey was before his time, right? You hear that kind of saying on Sankara.
I know people always say that these people are before their time. What does that mean? There's a perfect time for people to be unlimited, huh? Any time is the perfect time, and it's just a wake up time. I just know, I'm not gonna say nothing. All I'm saying is I just know. I just know, and the sentence continue.
Before the time, or Lumumba before their time. So I think timing does matter, right? In terms of when people come on the scene with their ideas or with their vision. Sometimes the timing is not there. The conditions, for example, may not be in line with the vision, right? So imagine Garvey in 2020 when Black Lives Matter jumped on the scene. And rather than Black Lives Matter, you and I in. You see what I'm saying? It's a wrap. So sometimes it's the timing of certain ideas and visions.
But again, Black Lives Matters took from a lot of past struggles and put it together, and the end result for Black Lives Matter had no meaning like what the other struggles had meaning. And that me tell you about copying a manifesto per se and implement it in other places, right? And that me say same thing with community programs. You can start it anywhere and implement it anywhere. But everything what we are talking about, it comes down to people being human, being understanding, caring, see the future, wanting a better future. All of these stuff, is important, people. As we proceed,
that come on the scene because the conditions sometimes dictate what should be. So to me, and this is about strategy, right? I can't fault Sankara because there's a lot that that resonates with me in terms of Sankara's vision. But when you make something like that as a vision public, you bring certain attention. There's a way in which I think about the revolutions in Milcar Cabral, who was a strategist, but he also was an agronomist. The land. He used the land with people to fight against the Portuguese, right? And so to me, that marriage between knowing the land, agronomy and farming, and knowing the people and their culture, combined together, operated covertly, right? Having these camps, being mobile. So what I'm suggesting is that don't be movement oriented and grandiose. Be maroon. Be guerrilla. Be strategic, right? Be hush harbor, like in the South, right? Yeah, be covert. Bringing attention to yourself undoes or will undo the very thing you're trying to accomplish, right? So I'm saying for Sankara and others, it is saying, we want to do this and making it public, right? We want to actualize this, right? Or Nkrumah telling, not picking on Nkrumah again, but he's there, he's on the ballot on the slate. Telling the British, we want independence now. Independence was granted, which means it's not independence, right? That's a concession. So Cabral,
and that's true because Jamaica don't have independence. It have paper tendence. Jamaica don't have independence. They have paper tendence because it's written on paper. It's written on paper, but it's still the same. Not change. Everything when we look on and see the struggle that Jamaica is going through, when it's supposed to be like Burkina Faso, 80 years of the same thing. So what makes you think it's gonna change now? When Burkina Faso, Abraham Traore go in there and in 3 years, 4 years, 3 years, it's not even 3 years yet. And the things that their man has accomplished in 3 years. I hear a famous YouTuber or not so famous YouTuber say, it's either they can't do it or they don't want to do it. And it's true. That are the epitome of how it is. Right? I tell you, say it's the simple things that It's the simple things. It's not, me never say it's the major things we have to go part the water and walk on the bottom of the ocean. No. But the simple things that we can do to make things better. Like up the live, share. The simple things, and it's true, people. I tell you, a woman like dress up in the most expensive stuff and all of that stuff, and the woman who's dressed nice and neat just looks the best just because she's organized within that comfort zone. Meanwhile, yeah, wear some 6 different color when I match just because I'm expensive. As we proceed.
right? That's a concession. So Cabral, he didn't ask the Portuguese for independence. You see? So I think you can learn more from Cabral than Sankara in the sense of strategy and bringing attention to yourself, given the conditions in which you find yourself. If you are anti-colonialist, if you are insurgent, if you are revolutionary against colonial forces, you can't speak about the very thing you want to them, especially in their idiom. And this is in Sankara's case, French, right? And so using the language, using the landscape, and using the culture, that's the winning formula. And being what? A combination of being maroon and being guerrilla and being covert, right?
I love the way this man thinks. Use everything any means necessary, but don't make it necessary by any means. Ooh. I'm glad so I take this in us and later on I can listen and copy my own styles. People. Yes, we're having fun in cool class as we proceed.
All these successful anti-colonialist, struggles were guerrillas, were maroonish, were using the forest, using the landscape. So whether it's in Guinea-Bissau or Mozambique or in Angola, right, was using those strategies. Think about this. We aggrandize and praise African independence, but most of them were granted. What was that? The ones that weren't, they have a different sensibility about their independence than those that were granted. Think about the neo-colonial relationship, right? So I say that to say that one like Sankara, what I learned from him, all the flaws in terms of strategy, given the conditions and the timing which he came on the scene. But I rate his vision highly. There's lots to love about Sankara. But as I said before, I find more that's useful and usable from the flaws than from the praise poetry.
Please share the story how you were born in Jamaica and ended up in the U.S. foster care system.
Whoa, and he's a Jamaican? I could have sworn he was an African. I swear he was an African, And that's assumption. It's a good thing we never write it down. Oops, now me there tape it. Oh, people, too funny, too funny. And again, I really love I did a part one of Asankora already, right? And now I see Abraham Torre, and everything Abraham Torre say, he keeps on saying, I'm not gonna reveal too much. This is what he keeps on saying. The man that him take, he's a real militant person, you know. Cause the man take everything where Sankara was doing, implementing it, putting him own security. Me tell you said, because him understand, he understand what is necessary for the progress to go on. And that's what we don't understand sometimes. This is not it. There's always more to us. There's always more coming. More greatness, more humanity. So at the same thing when I'm saying, we shouldn't be satisfied with 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 this. That this is nothing when there's so much more. So I am just loving listening to these people talk, right? It's so refreshing, more than the latest mix up and the latest blend up. Because that's just like sugar to your brain, right? This is like a complete meal. As we proceed, people.
You were born in Jamaica and ended up in the U.S. foster care system.
Great question. So, obviously born in Jamaica and reared there by my grandfather until I was about 10 or 11. Came to New York, Brooklyn, New York, to be exact, around 86, 87. And within a year, a number of transitions happened. My grandfather passed away 2 months after I arrived in the States. And my grandpa and I were very close, still are. As you have heard from previous sessions, I talk highly a lot about him. And so that was tough. Not going to his funerary rites called Nine Nights, which is a big ritual celebration.
Yes, we don't know about the 9 night thing already, and I think then turn 9 night, you know, like 113 be a night thing. Uh, as we proceed, people.
Pan Caribbean world. That was really, really, really tough. And then 7 months later in July, my closest uncle, Uncle Bunny, and lots of Bunny in Jamaica, as we know, he passed away. He was found shot in his car, 2 in the morning.
Hold on, before we go there, how did you end up with your grandfather in Jamaica?
Okay, and that a bunny rabbit, we don't know. That is so funny. On a side note, you know the bunny rabbit them, or they want to go picnic. People, too much sometimes, you know. As we proceed, all right.
What happened to your mother and your father?
Well, my mom lived with us in a compound, as we call it in Jamaica, we call it the yard, right? And so the yard is a compound area where there may be 3 or 4 different rooms or like independent rooms, right? Like 1 bedroom houses, right? Basically. So my mother lived there, my grandfather and his wife lived there, my aunts lived there, which are my grandfather's children, with his wife. And my mom and I, and my brother lived there. And then my sister, she passed away 11 months old due to a fire. So a number of things happened. She transitioned, my sister transitioned, Adana, aka Tanya. She transitioned around 11 months old due to the fire. My mom was scarred by it, but she lived. Within maybe 2 years later, we were in the States. And then my grandfather transitioned, then my uncle transitioned. And he and I were very close. And so when that happened, rather than family come together to, kind of.
Who I go take him? I wish for him I go leave. Him can't stay here, so he must have to find somewhere else to go. And that's how you go here. So obviously that's gonna be the end result. Him end up in a foster care. That much I showing us. Sometimes where the lady come on and say, the Jamaican lady, she said the singer, right? They never too take to the singer too tough in the pan road that other people come and hear him and put him in a better condition. Right? Am I learning, people? I am remembering, people. As we proceed, because I know so suffer with situation go. If you're not rich and famous, you're not get no love. As we proceed, people.
Together to kind of sort of hold the flood, right? It poured even more. My mom was sabotaged in two ways. My mom, who worked, as a home health aide, means she worked to take care of white people while my brother and I were home alone.
Foundation Jamaican job. When you
There you go, right? Indeed. And she went to school at LIU in Brooklyn for a nursing degree, right? So she was going to school and working full time, which means I, at 12 years old, 11 years, I took care of my brother and myself. And so on weekends I didn't see my mom, right? And so
if you're looking for a way to expand your
look, and that I'm tell you, so we have responsibility from a little bit, because me not different. Me still have to do my little piece. Seeing babysit. I just saw, but I'm telling you, so me never look on it like that. I look at it like family, right? That's how family used to come together and look out for each other. But then, that's a tragedy also happening in his life, because him lose him sister. Oh my goodness. So trust me, it's the very fact that the man has come this far, right? Overcome all of them trauma there and be so articulate, right? And knowledgeable. Because I could have swear the way the man talk, he was an African. But he's well studied. As we proceed, people.
on weekends I didn't see my mom, right? And so in that moment, two things happened to my mom and us, but through my mom. One was that my mother, the woman that my father and mom were never married. So he got another woman, he had children with her. And because this woman was jealous of my mom, because my father would talk about us, his sons, even though he didn't see us, he would talk about us. She became jealous and did spiritual work against my mom. Yeah. And so, and then my mother had sisters, different father, and these sisters, my aunts, went ahead and didn't do spiritual work, but they basically put my mother in Bellevue, literally.
Whoa, Madhouse, Bellevue, that are the Madhouse at Jamaica. Oh my goodness. I tell you, so we live a traumatized life, people. Okay, so I say the church and the thing, them schools and all of them things, the community center, but we definitely need to have psychologists. Pretty much in every 2 or 3 in every community. Yo, enough things we have to deal with, There's a lot of things we have to deal with, people. It's really sad. As we proceed.
Literally. Because they claimed that she was not right in the mind. And really she wasn't, because what happened in truth was that my mother was afraid for us, her young sons, her young children, and didn't send us to school for about a month or two. But that wasn't paranoia or a mental breakdown. That was because of the killer of my uncle, who was a friend of both my uncle and her from Jamaica, used to come to the window in the brownstone apartment where we stayed and knock on the window. So my mother had good reason to fear, right, for us. And so her sister, my aunt, interpreted that as a way to get back to her for what they thought my grandfather did wrong to their mother, right? So it was a bit of revenge.
Lord have mercy. People, me tell us. We not traumatize each other, some people. Eh? It's always trauma, 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 trauma. There's no forgiveness, there's no healing, there's no wow. Yo, look at it though, man. Consider and say the murder rate at Jamaica is so high. When you look at these things, these stuff, it affect we in a many ways, you know. We really need psychologists for real. We need what me say the church these church nowadays they don't even do anything for the public. Them not do nothing for the public. I mean, it's not just the church alone. It needs like the school, but then the school them can't take care of the kids. You know, see how the world is so chaotic. So where can you say you can have um freedom of the mind? Where you can say you have peace of mind when there's no part of society where you can say peace and tranquility unless you're rich and can avoid living with amongst the peasants or the commoners. Apparently, that's what we're called. But humanity is really, really hurt. We want traumatized society for real. And when you look and say with food, the food issue, the food, me not call it food crisis, right? Because as long as there's land, there's can't be no food crisis. The same thing me say you can't have water crisis on an island. These things are like facts. So when them start put out them seed here now, you know all of the seeds them when up them can't grow again, right? Them don't tell about the crisis already. So in a fool mind we don't accept it already. When I say no, we reject that, rebuke that. There's no such thing as food crisis. Just give us proper seed for grow, plant, right? Wow. People, this are some deep stuff, you know. As we proceed, people.
It was a bit of revenge and using that to bring my mother into Bellevue. And then, of course, my mother, switch work is done against my mother, whereby she doesn't stay in the place. My mom, even, she becomes homeless. I'll get her an apartment, take care of her, food, clothing, whatever she needs. I'm there for her. So my mother and I are close. But then she would never settle it. And that was that. So that was a spiritual work. And then her sisters combined together, put her in that place. And so when my mother was removed to put her in the Bellevue, we were put into foster care. I remember going to Children's and Family Services office in Manhattan. We lived in the office for like 3 or 4 days. We were just staying in the office. And then we were brought to a home in Queens. And then we went to a place in East New York, I think around Myrtle and Broadway, for like a little while. It was nasty. And then we were brought to a place on Island called St. Mary's Children and Family Services. It was like a campus of sorts.
But how traumatic was that?
Classic.
How traumatic was that transition from being with your family to being around?
And again, you see the trauma again? That's more trauma though, man. I'm not gonna lie, I've been homeless before. It's not pretty, but it's just something to get you where you're supposed to go. You hear him said that place was nasty, but it was just a place to be to get to somewhere else. People who struggle not easy, but because we think so we are the only one in this struggle and not understand say it's similarities. And the only way we can change similarities is come together and make a change. Like-minded people. Me tell you, say the like-minded people them are gonna make a difference, you know. Can change the world. Professor Griff said that. And tomorrow again, more do a, a, like a marathon of ladies. I gotta do a marathon of lady this week, and then like um Professor Griff did a video with the Black Culture Part 2. I'm telling you, there's so much information, so much positive people. There's lots of positive people out there are putting in the work, but they're just not mainstream like that, you know. Like them video now get like in the algorithm because even film channel is not monetized. As we proceed, people.
With the stick.
Well, I don't know how traumatic it really was because I stayed focused on what was always important to me, was my family.
That's funny. Because me too focused to see them things there. For real. This guy has a positive attitude, I swear. And he's a Jamaican people.
My family with my brother, younger brother. So I took care of him. Even though we're 2 years apart, we're actually much more years apart because I was always like his father.
Okay, and that's the thing. Sometimes when you're the youngest, even though you have good ideas, right? You have like plans and everything. You get discarded or neglected just because you're not old or not a female per se, right? Them not listen to you. And that me tell you say in a free culture, there's so much racism and prejudice, right? I've been through them things though, man. That's why I'm saying I'm gonna take on myself because what's the sense you can contribute, but your contribution is not worth anything because people deem it as nothing. Or okay, you make something and people we just it's just messed up for us. That's all. Yeah, me I say we don't live good amongst each other. That's one of the biggest thing. I gotta admit that. As we proceed, people, very smart, educated Dr. Kwasi Konadu. And it seems like say him change him name because me not understand a Jamaican have a name like that. So again, me I gonna do a Google because I'm gonna do a part 2 with him. Very smart person. And you know, so we like smart people.
I was always like his father, which I'm sure bothered him. But I had to be. So I was always older, than my chronological years, right? And so I didn't worry about trauma. I just worried about taking care of us. And I worried about getting back to my mother. And so I was there at the foster care home for about a year and change, and I went AWOL because I knew the routines. And on a certain Sunday, I knew that they were lax, and so I just walked.
Because I tell you, say the time that's me tell you, it's like your mind. It's like you get bored. It get it just figure out things to occupy. It, not bored. Just figure out get like it's like the things where people that say them bored. You find time things to occupy your time, right? That's why I love reading so much because you can open up a book and then couple hours later and you're still in the book, but so far away. So him figuring out how them people are lax on Sunday and how him can dilly dally, literally dilly dally. As we proceed.
And on a certain Sunday, I knew that they were lax. And so I just walked like I'm walking around, and I walked off the campus and I walked down to the local LIRR train station in Syosset Island, which is where the home was located. It's still there, by the way. And got on the train. Now I'm thinking in my New York City mind, I get on the train, right? I'm good. And so the conductor comes and asks for my ticket for the LIRR. For your viewers, on Island Railroad, you have to buy the ticket in advance or on the train. So I'm thinking about New York City mind. Once you hop the turnstile or you pass, you're good. Right?
I'm telling you, when you think say you're good, you're not good. It's true. Cause I remember when that thief the Milo out and stick me under the Milo can. I'm gonna tell you something. I have one handful of Milo, you know. I'm gonna tell you say I would not let go the Milo. I wouldn't let go the Milo. We go catch with me hand in the Milo can and hold the Milo. All you have to do is just let go the Milo. People, that will hurt me for the rest of my life. That is something when me say, how could I not think say if Lego the Milo and my hand come out of the can? When me look back and go inside of myself, me just did want that Milo. Me just did want that Milo. That are the hunger thing. That's why I say you cannot be just one track mind. That's what I say, right? When we go to the store, I'm gonna find the book the day and time I find the book. You leave your house for one thing and you end up finding other things, right? So this is why I'm gonna say that the Milo can they will never erase from my mind. One track mind for real people. As we proceed.
Or you pass, you're good. Right? So I didn't have money. Looked at him, and then this white man, looked at me, and then he said, "I'll pay for it," and he paid for me. I said, "Thank you." Right? And so got up in Nordstrom on the LIRR train. I knew my way by then, and so I walked. I knew once I could find Franklin Avenue, which we lived on Lincoln Place between Bedford and Franklin. And so I walked to Franklin. Once I got to Franklin, I knew make that left on Lincoln Place. Came to the apartment building. I think it's 576 Lincoln Place. Ring the doorbell. Guess who was there? My mother. She was shocked to see me. And the first question I had for her, I don't remember if I asked her, is that why did you come first? But by then I saw her glazed look on her face. She was drugged out. They had pumped all the drugs in her. So my healthy whole mother, who was going through a rough patch, was drugged up. My mom has never been the same. So I'm actually working on getting my mom back to Jamaica to heal her. Yeah.
Wow, so I guess the mother still there, the States. Ah. It's sad, people. So even a doctor, even as a doctor, that may I tell you say, even within ourselves, we still have limits, right? Him feel mother now in the care of somebody that's supposed to be making her well, but they're making her worse. And the doctor said that going into the medical field, you have to have some form of empathy and compassion for other people. And it's true. But some people isn't. I tell you something, keep on saying it. Some people are not human. Not all man are man. There's a difference between a man and a monster. One do one serious on that too. Because people describe some people as man when them action is a monster. As we proceed, people, because I tell you say these knowledge and understanding sometimes it's not all funs and jokes, right? It's educational. It's informative and it's understanding. Can learn so many things from the same situation, right? As we proceed.
Yeah.
So she's up here.
She is. I'm trying to find her. She's on the streets. As I said, it's been a cycle. Putting her into her home, into her apartment, taking care of food, clothing, whatever she needs.
So how you deal with that? That seemed like a rough one, bro.
Listen to the man. Oh, you see that? Sounds like a rough one, bro. It's like saying him couldn't deal with it, you know. But I bet you if I went for him, I'm still have to deal with it. Of course. And that's people's situation though. We We're not in that position. But if we were, we would have to deal with it, one way or another. If we did really love our mother. Because yesterday, when the doctor him asked the same question, why do some kids hate their parents? Right? It's if you love your parents. It's if. And if you love your parents, you do whatever. I don't have no regrets about my mom still. But me said, if it was possible to do over, I think some would be a little bit more aggressive. That's all when it comes to mom's care. That's the only thing I can say. As we proceed, people, we're humans here.
Food, clothing, whatever she needs.
So how you do with that? That seemed like a rough one, bro.
It is, but I guess I'm built for this. I don't get stressed about this. I just
Jamaican, of course, we're built for this.
focus on solution.
See? You see what the man say? Focus on solution because we're problem solvers. We're always solution driven. We're always solution driven. We always find a solution to the problem. So we're unprofessional geniuses if we not can call with that. We never gone to school, so we're not professionally trained, but when it comes to understanding certain things. As we proceed,
I'll teach my daughters. I said, there are no problems, just solutions. So if I focus on that, then I'll be stressed. So I just focus on, okay, I'm going to find you, mom. I'm going to find you. The big city, But I've seen her. She's come to me, and she don't want me to find her yet. But
she not ready for you find her yet. People. So this is Dr. Kwasi Konadu, and this is our introduction to him, right? So me tell us, so we always do part 1, part 2, introduce these great people, listen to them story, get inspired, right? As we proceed.
But she's weak. So I see her in my dreams, for example, right? So I know she's there, but I'm working on it. Yeah.
And with the foster care system, right? You hear so many stories. You hear good stories, you hear bad stories. In your experience, what is the biggest misconception about the foster care system?
There's several. One of them is that it's a misnomer. The term in their phrase, foster care, there is no care. To me, it is the plantation slavery. Because the same resources put into removing people from their homes and their families could put into keeping them.
That's true. That is definitely true. And the same thing then could I do with keeping the father in the home. But the first thing with them do is you can't have a man at your yard if you're the assistant. But I talk about that before too. The woman them should have fight for the man them. The woman feels say, well, the only thing, because I'm telling you, there's always choices, right? I'm not saying that I'm blaming the woman. I am just saying there should be more put into fighting for the man them in the kids them life. Right? I'm telling you, I'm always solution driven, right? So we can't say it's just a problem and don't say, well, what about the solution? Because no for them picnic there, the woman say them get pregnant somehow. So if them get pregnant somehow, why not have some incentive to keep the man around? But there was no incentive. That's the point. Them control the kids them, right? Boy, I tell you, going through these, understanding these things, it's crazy. But at least I'm understanding more. As we proceed, people, 2 minutes left.
In them in their families. And I get the argument that sometimes children or child's life is in danger, and it is in those cases. But guess what? Those people have kinfolks, cousins, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, right? Someone, even neighbors that know the children well. I'm saying those same doctors.
It's true. It's true. And again, um the spiritual healer, I'm not gonna mess up her name, but she said it. She goes, it shouldn't just be the mother and the father, it should be the family. Like it should be family oriented to grow up the kids. That's why I said the word single mother is such a, it's such a I'm a single mother and I'm a single mother, I'm a single mother. What, like, how can you say it so consistently when like you have family members? Maybe you're the sole provider, right? That means that you, the husband, or did it, but the single mother thing, just the way we talk, I say it's just, it's not just confusing, convoluted, mix up. It's just, so this is why I say we need a psychiatrist or 2 psychiatrists in every community, along with the preacher, along with the community center, along with neighbors. So change how we look, how we live. As we proceed.
That know the children well. I'm saying those same dollars can go into repair and to say, hey, which by the way, it happened the same idea in terms of separating families from Mexico, right? Putting them with a kinfolks, right? Putting them with a relative. That should be the effort, not removing them into this violent, space. And I was with violent people. I mean, the people I was with, in Long Island, in the foster care home in St. Mary's, these were young brothers, and other young men, a few white guys, and then there are a few Latino, guys and brothers there. A lot of them were from Spofford. Now shut down. Spofford was a juvenile prison, right? Notorious.
They brought that same type of energy.
Man, listen. Now I can hold my own. In fact, they called me Little Rasta because I was from Jamaica, right?
Little Rasta, just because you come from Jamaica, eh? Obviously you can't hold your own. And we always hold our own. But me say, just the fact that you have a juvenile correctional center, right? All of them things there. It's supposed to be cadet, like they're supposed to have cadet um like things where you learn discipline in uniform. You wear uniform instead of in a prison clothes, you're in a uniform, right? So if anything, you can go into the army, the navy, those avenues are supposed to be there. So we're not end up with 1,400 box up a year, right? We just, I said, the avenues that's taken away from us, put us in our mind, a mind frame, right? It's just self-destruction. As we proceed.
But they knew it that they didn't mess with me, and therefore they didn't mess with my brother because I always had him. So I didn't get any trouble in that way, because I would fight anyone. I would look it, but you bring it to me,
Yeah, and that's some mistake too. I don't like going out there. I don't like trouble. What me say, trust me, it's my pleasure to defend myself. Trust me.
Bring it to you. So I didn't get messed with, but there were dudes there that, in fact, I witnessed a rape of a white woman who was a counselor there. In the foster care. Yeah, in the college where we were. And it's another story, and it's horrible because no one deserves that. No one deserves that. And I saw what they were doing, and they invited me in, and I said, I went downstairs. We used to have on the second floor. By witness, I mean I knew what was going on inside, and they would look out, dudes at the door, And when they cracked the door, as I said, I want no part of this. I want no part of this. And I remember I felt for her, right? She's a human being. And so
There you go. Just because you're a human being. I'm gonna tell you enough time I get in a trouble just because me have different things when belong to me now. But I'm tell you, I just don't like wrong. I just don't like say people are do wrong to other people. It's just wrong. And then the people when me say it yesterday, them people were uphold the people them worse than them people there. The people them I met them people they get away with it and then I come apologize for the people them where I do it. If them tell them say them fi stop, then they know have to apologize for them. I tell you say all my life I saw me stay I may always get in a trouble enough times just because. Them people are wrong. And people are give them right all the time. And usually are them friend. But me say what's the difference between them and them friend? No difference. Cause I just because them friend not have the courage to do it. That's what I say. As we proceed.
and so I felt for her. But I'm saying that's the kind of violence that I live with. But it's not their fault. Because guess what? Criminals are made. So there are people that go to prison, but they're not criminals. They become criminals in prison.
True. Come and tell us, say, oh, you can learn anything and everything at prison. You can learn, well, you can learn anything and everything out the road too. But me say, when you go to prison, it's like a condensation of everything you can learn wrong. But it's right because them learn it. This system, me telling you, say, yo, that's why I said to me, it's just a simulation. We're living in a simulation. It's just a simulation. It's just a simulation. As we proceed.
So there are people that go to prison, but they're not criminals. They become criminals in prison. So these brothers became, that in the prison of the foster care. Without fathers, without love, without care, he will kill, right? So that word is a deep misnomer. In fact, it's a violent cruelty, right? And the entire system is about fracturing and separating, which is what plantations did. Selling off, trading off, rupturing families. What's the difference?
But the question I've never experienced firsthand. I've just seen from a distance, but I just think it's illegal to give so many kids to one person, to one family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they can provide the needs for that child. So it's just like, is it a situation where there are not enough families, or is it a hustle thing? Like, why does one?
Okay, and there you go. It's a hustle thing. It's a hustle thing. Then people make so much money, right? And at the same thing, then just collect the money and then give like bare minimum to the pitney them. I'm telling you, it's not about care because nobody cares. If there's no money in it, them not them waiting. Them just go adapt them pitney and give them love. No, them are gonna say, okay, how much money do I get per kid? Okay, how much kid can I stack into this apartment? That's pretty much how they do them calculation. The same thing with them say with the nurses, right? The nurses are considered expenses, right? If you're not a specialist, if you don't have specialize in a heart or in a kidney and all of them things, look, you get the big bucks if you specialize in all them things. But if you're just a lowly nurse are the first one get laid off. The first one get fired. So when we say everything, money become the God, and I think say from way long, and so them did I look at it. Just make money become the God. So You don't have to earn anything. You just earn it at other people work. It's crazy. When we did have pride, we did have joy, we did have all of the things that will make we worth. Nowadays, it's only money that make you worth. As we proceed,
Is it a situation where there are not enough families, or is it a hustle thing? Like, why does one family get 5, 6, 7 kids?
Because it's a hustle. It's a hustle. In fact,
see, it's a hustle. It's true. Them buy a case of macaroni and probably a box of macaroni and cheese, and that come up to all what $10, $20. That a go last for all the whole month. Macaroni and cheese with some green green something, then fling in there some frozen spinach, and the next day then put some hot dog in it, and the next day then put some bacon or something like that. They don't care. Where is the care? As we proceed.
because it's a hustle. It's a hustle. In fact, my aunt, who we stay with in Coney Island, hustles. You see, the city pays or the agencies involved. They pay the foster care parent a certain amount of money. So my aunt was getting paid money, even though she's a biological aunt. This was out of love. This was out of payment.
You hear that? This was not out of love. This was out of payment.
And we didn't get any of it. Meaning my brother and I, didn't get any of it. And so, and she was also getting money from St. Mary's, the foster care place. She was getting money from them. We got nothing. Only time we got something was in August when we went shopping for clothes. And she would cap it, and she would be there. We would pick out, or sometimes she would buy the clothes for us, right? So, and I know, folks who do this as a job. They have 5, 6 foster care children because of the money, not because the children all care for them. So it's a hustle, right? It's a violent hustle because what's at stake are those lives are ruined. Those destinies and potentials are ruined by the desire and the lust, for the money can be gotten because there's no oversight. Yes, someone may come every month or 2 months or once in a while. There's no oversight for the daily violence that happens in these homes. And sometimes you can't even call them homes, right? A great example for your viewers, those who are not familiar with the system, would be Antoine Fisher, the movie. What happened in that? I know that as a fact. That's not hyperbole or fiction. But that's a great movie. Antoine Fisher, directed by Denzel Washington. Folks should check it out if they haven't already. That will give them.
Okay, Antoine Fisher. I remember that movie, but I can't remember the details. So I'm not gonna detail on something I can't remember. So I'm probably just gonna touch on it on our next video. I think he was a smart kid. But recently, this lady, she got arrested. She had her kids living in the house for 4 years. All she did was drop off the food like a doggy bag. Same thing that happened to my mom, right? But my mom wasn't young. These kids, they're living in this house. I think it was 3 of them for 4 years. This lady would stop by periodically, tell them, don't open the door and don't do this, don't do that. They open up the house. They say the house stunk. The whole place was filthy. Oh, maybe I should do a video on that next month, right? Because now it's like sensational. Everybody's talking about it. But the very fact that this is her own kid. She was getting money for the kids, but it's no different from these people getting these kids and doing the same thing to them. It's all over the paper right now, right? I think she's in. I don't know if they. I think they denied her bail. Or it was like like I don't know, $10 million or something like that. I don't know, but you see, this is Strength, Honor, Dignity Highlight Month, right? And some of the things I'm gonna tell you, say, well, that's in the sensational department. Later on in the year, I can use these as examples, right? But the very fact that this woman have our kids them in that squalor. Like them have to have people that wear mask. How much people are scrape out. Jesus, no sir. It's just sad. So Burgundy month now, you think so she are gonna get any Burgundy present? Eh? As we proceed, people.
To check it out if they haven't already. That will give them a sense, and that's not make believe. That's real.
And I know you said you focused on you didn't say results. What you just say you focus on solutions, right? Where did the focus come to like do something with yourself? Many people are broken. Many people are broken, period, right? But with those type of experience, many people get broken. Where did you get the strength focus to do something with yourself and not let that consume you?
Ancestry. My close relationship with ancestry has always been there. I mean, they look out for me, and I know that because of the connection that I have with them, right? And that connection, which is again why I started the YouTube channel, Powered by Ancestry. That's why I named it so. Because
Okay. So he has a YouTube channel. I'm definitely have to go look him up on fire. I'm telling you, people, there's so much interesting people in our own culture that's doing so much good. Them are do so much good. That's why I'm just I say, if we can highlight them people, yeah, just to get some inspiration amongst each other. Just to start at that, instead of just the tear down and the disrespect and them thing. That's why I'm say over here, so we good over here. And I can come and I can chill. The topic them eventually me gonna start put up like which topic me gonna talk about ahead of time and stuff like that. But it's always gonna be about great people, great things. Always, just like himself, finding ancestors, our ancestors. I don't know how long them people are call out to me because I tell people some of that free soul for a long time and I burn myself and then say my mother and crazy. But highlighting these people is freeing their souls. Well, not this person because he's still alive, but the great people them. Me talking about them. And this feels so natural to me. I am so intrigued in this. Not as much as my cooking and my delicious sauce them. Not more than my delicious sauce them. But it's up there. Finding about amazing us. And it's about time as we proceed.
which is again why I started the YouTube channel, Powered by Ancestry. That's why I named it so, because that is coming from lived experience.
Power of the ancestors, people. So I'm going to go subscribe to him YouTube channel and probably have like 100,000 followers. Oh yeah, and this a video now. I talk about the likes and the things them, right? This a video of 6.4 thousand views. 307, 306, 307 with my thumbs up. Because me always put in there like 307. I am 307. For sure, said it's like say me put myself within the space. I mean, also I don't understand them things there because again, the smart people them not need all that explanation. They're just aware. Antoine Fisher, maybe I'm gonna look that up and watch it after this live.
That's coming from decades of research, married to lived experience. That's coming from healing and having clients who last 6 8 months. Almost all the clients people that I work with, a lot of their spiritual and even mundane things, obviously, job, this, that, family, has ancestral roots, has ancestral symptoms, has ancestral. It's like a vector. That's the force field. And I'm like, this is the pattern over and over and over, right? So it is that relationship and that connection that essentially just sort of foments into being solution driven, being about being growing,
Being
staying hungry,
being
not being comfortable, right? So, after 8 books and press and this and children and whatever else. And
8 books? You wrote 8 books, people. Dr. Kwasi Konadu. And he's a Jamaican, people. We can't, we're amazing, Sure. All right. I could go and proceed.
so on. I'm still hungry. My appetite has widened, not for food, right? To be clear.
That's funny, but it could be in food too. But that's how I feel though. I just feel just learning about these people is just me know me on to the next level. I mean, I'm not there yet, but I know the next level is finally, appear. The next level has finally appeared.
But just hungry for living out my purpose, right? And doing it in tandem. And then the more I do, the more they put on me, and the more I do, because they built me for this, and they give me the tools, they give me the resources, and I share that, give that, and that empowers people. Wonderful, because that in turn will allow them to be more whole and healthy. And again, once that moment clicks and people realize that, we aren't who they said we were or made us believe we were, and we sit on our nuclear weapon, our ancestry, our power base, it's a wrap. Then the world becomes right.
We are sitting down with power base. So Antoine Fisher, I'm gonna see if I can find it on YouTube, people. I'm gonna tell you, say every time. That's why I'm telling myself when I get to my pencil on a pencil on a book, because every time I come on here, that's how I feel. So when I forward, it's like it's not even time. It's just a moment. So all of my video them is not even. My video is not even no time video, a moment video them. Because when you jump on, say you have to just chill. Just turn off the pot and not burn up the food. Right, people? So that is Dr. Kwasi Konadu. I'm gonna tell you, write down so much things from this one already. I definitely have to do a part 2 on him, because he's so amazing. He's so amazing. The man is so positive, right? I'm not telling you, we don't have to be just like that, but I'm just saying there's so much more to us. And then keep on saying it, be unlimited. Just be unlimited, right? Be great. Be amazing. Be who you're supposed to be. I'm telling you, all of them things the man tell you. First time I listened to him, and it was worth it. You know what I say? It brings so much to the table. So refreshing. People, I like to thank you again for not stopping by. Right? Thank you for on a thumbs up. Thank you for on a share, on a subscribe. Tell us you can always comment on. Because over here, so that's how we want to have it. Right? So we want to have everybody just come and just listen. Chill out. Because good people will always be good people. Right, people? And I'm pure good people over here, so we don't say it already. There's so many other places that can go other than here, so and we don't have a problem with them. Right? Always manners, respect. Manners, respect. Always more to come, people. Thank you so much. I'm out.